So this gospel immediately follows the Transfiguration, and we didn't hear it on Saturday. Even if you had gone to a Saturday morning Mass, it would have been the Feast of the Chair of Peter, so you wouldn't have gotten that reading anyways. But we see Peter, James, John, Jesus, they're coming down the mountain, and the first thing people recognize is they see Jesus and they're amazed. Does he still have some of that glow, that aura of his transfiguration with him? We're not really sure. But we do know that he calls them a faithless generation. And there's this consistency throughout this story about the need for faith. If you can, everything is possible for one who has faith, for one who trusts in God, for one who is there at the heart of God. I think about the disciples. I don't know if you've seen the image. There are some depictions of the Transfiguration where you also see at the bottom of the mountain, at the same time the Transfiguration is going on, the disciples at not being able to drive out this demon. And there's this confusion. In my reflection, I remember one time I was driving up in the mountains and I was praying through the luminous mysteries and I got to the Transfiguration. And I just looked up at the mountain and I says, if I were one of the disciples at the foot of the mountain, if I had looked up where I knew Jesus was, he was somewhere up there, maybe not know exactly where, but if I had looked up, would I have seen the shining brightness of his glory? Would I have seen the cloud of glory coming down upon him and heard maybe a rumble of the voice of the Father? Maybe not hearing exactly, but hearing, "This is my Son, my chosen, listen to him." Would that have strengthened my faith? I wonder if the disciples, they were so focused on, this has always worked before, we're doing this now, it didn't work, so we're going to try harder and we're going to try to drive him out, and instead of looking up to Jesus, and if they had seen maybe that glow of Jesus' transfiguration from a distance, maybe just a shining light, small, would they then have been strengthened in their faith to be able to have driven the evil one out? And isn't this the story of our lives? You know, we come, we have our prayer time, we come into Mass, you know, we're faithful and we pray. And then in the midst of the day, as the chaos happens, I've not met anyone that doesn't have some sort of chaos in their lives. As the chaos happens and life goes on and we forget to look up in the midst of the chaos, in the midst of the struggle, and say, "Jesus, help. Jesus, help." You know, at the end of the gospel, the disciples say, "Why couldn't we drive the spirit out?" He says, "This kind can only come out through prayer." And what is prayer? Prayer is union with God. Prayer is coming into the heart of God. Pope Benedict said that the fathers of the church say that prayer is nothing other than becoming a longing for God. Prayer is nothing other than becoming a longing for God. So we say, okay, do we have that longing for God? Do we come close to him where we trust him, where we have that faith in him that no matter what happens, we know he is our rock, he is our stronghold? I remember one mystic talking about how in the midst of the day, just for different points, she would just, especially when there was some sort of chaos or some sort of trouble she had to figure out, she'd just take a pause, maybe just for 5 seconds, just in her mind lean back into the arms of Christ. Let him hold her. Maybe it was only for 5 seconds in the midst of a chaotic day, but it helped her then to refocus back on, I don't have to figure this out. God has already figured this out. I just need to get in union with him. And brought peace. In those times when I've done that. It's hard to remember to do that in the midst of the trials, though. But in those times when we do, it brings us peace. Because we rely on our God. This beautiful prayer of the Father, "I do believe, help my unbelief," can be our cry Yes, Lord, I do have faith, but you know how easy it is for me to forget. Help my unbelief. Help those times when I don't trust in you. Help those times when I feel like I have to rely on myself. Help me in my unbelief to turn back to you, to strengthen my faith.